Good afternoon. Wow, this is a serious group. Must be new lawyers. Excellent speeches. Congratulations, student speakers. Colin, I hope you get over your shyness problem. And Dean Epps, thank you for that mention of the NPR study saying that judges and lawyers are boring speakers. So let's start here. No two trials are alike. Each trial has different facts that lend themselves to unique closing arguments. Now, I prefer closing speeches. It sounds less adversarial. Now, why do I mention this? Commencement speeches are much different because aside from the school and the location, the facts and thus the themes are for the most part the same. So, after my good friend Dean Epps called me and asked me to be this year's commencement speaker, it did not take long for the warm glow of this incredible honor to wear off. And my public speaking confidence faded, and it faded fast, as it began to dawn on me that commencement speeches are very challenging because it's hard to be original. No problem, I thought. No problem. I got this. I'll fall back on old habits that had served me well. I went into what I call trial prep mode. And for a few months, I wrote down every thought that came into my head about today. Good, bad, neutral, everything. And I wrote it down and I put it in a file that I carried around with me, Temple Commencement file. So about 2 weeks ago, I took out the file, got out my legal pad, and I went through all of my notes and all of my what I thought were great ideas. And then I started to panic because my list of topics was not very good. So I took a break and consulted with my daughter, Julie, who's about the same age as most of you. I sat down with her after a long hike and I showed her and asked for her advice, showed her my topics for today's address. And here it is. It's a copy. And I said, Jewel, I need your help. Let's go over this. I said, Dad, go ahead. First topic on my list, change the world. Do great things, make a difference, do public service, do pro bono work. And the instant look on my daughter's face said what I already knew. Boring. Next idea, a little more serious, a lot more serious actually. Eddie Olbaum. Now for those of you who did not know Professor Olbaum, he was the true founder of Temple's illustrious trial program. And more importantly, a very close friend of mine and my mentor, and a very close friend of many of the folks on this stage. He passed away 2 years ago, almost a couple weeks ago to the day, I believe. And my daughter respectfully paused for a moment and she said, Dad, I know we meant a lot to you. I know we meant a lot to the law school, but that's just too sad. It's a joyous day, and a lot of people in the audience may not know about Eddie Olbaum. I said, fair enough, good point, Joel. Next idea, Temple Law School legacy, generations. I reminded my daughter, Julie, that my father, her grandfather, Larry Goldberg, graduated Temple Law School, class of 1955. Gave me my diploma 30 years ago. My brother, her uncle, Arlen Goldberg, class of 1989. Now, my daughter didn't know this, but she does now. My Little League baseball coach, Sam Rabinowitz, Temple Law School class of 1959, his son and my lifelong friend, Mark Rabinowitz, sitting right there, crying his eyes out, class of 1988, and here's the really special part, he's about to give his daughter, Katie Rabinowitz, a member of my Chambers family, and more importantly, a member of your class, her diploma. 3 generations. I thought, wow, good topic, my daughter would approve of that, and she said astutely, Dad, really special, but maybe not applicable to everyone in the audience, and she's right again. Fourth and last topic, And now I'll tell you, this last topic showed my complete and utter desperation. I'll admit to you here, I wanted my audience to really pay attention. And this topic is what everyone is obsessively talking about. Bars and cafes, dinner tables. It's an attention grabber. And she looked at my last topic, and it just said 2 words: Donald Trump. Now that's showed my desperation. And then she looked at me and she said, "Dad, are you going for TV ratings? This is a commencement speech. Or do you just want to be impeached?" And so, the only way I could lose my job is by impeachment. So I got off of that topic, but I'm not sure to this day she believed me when I told her that I was kidding. And for those of you who are videotaping this, I'm kidding. So after reviewing my commencement theme list, my daughter did what I suspect a lot of daughters sometimes do to their fathers. She just rolled her eyes at me. And then she crumpled up my list, and she threw it over her shoulder, and she said this. She said, "Dad, no platitudes, no high-minded ideas. What these new lawyers want, they want practical advice. Give them practical advice. Talk about this. What is it you wish you had figured out on your own as a young lawyer that it took you 30 years of practicing law to actually learn?" And then she looked at me very seriously and she said, "Dad, be honest." Perfect. Perfect, Julie. Perfect, because the topic was instantly clear to me. Because while I have had a blessed career in this amazing profession, in hindsight, as a young lawyer, I never fully appreciated and understood on a deeper level how inherently adversarial and competitive our profession is. And as a result, I was overly competitive as a younger lawyer, and thus not always 100% focused on my clients' goals. And in some small ways, I was also, unfortunately, a little less compassionate and forgot that legal outcomes affect people's lives. And after thinking about that theme some more, I realized that a few young lawyers that I know that have appeared before me, and a lot of experienced lawyers that have appeared before me, they don't get that. They don't fully understand that personal professional goals may not always be consistent with their clients' goals. Think about that. Now, in 1986, when I graduated from this incredible law school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was laser focused. I wanted to try cases, and I did that for the first part of my career at the Philadelphia DA's office. Like notches on my belt, I racked up as many courtroom experiences as possible. I was a tough plea negotiator, and looking back, probably gained the reputation of a decent trial lawyer, but also deservingly gained the reputation of being a bit of an uncompromising negotiator. And as those of us who have tried cases in City Hall, another way of saying that is I was a bit of a hard ass. So, while I achieved my goal of being in a courtroom 24/7 by being so competitive with both defense counsel and admittedly maybe some of my colleagues, I didn't fully grasp that in some instances I was not being true to my clients' goals, the goals of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania who I represented. Now, for those of you who are not lawyers, you're asking yourself, well, you're a prosecutor, how do you have a client? The client is the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And after all, prosecutor with all that power must, in the first instance, make decisions based on a just result. That is the mission of the client, just result. This is how a prosecutor serves their client. And what I now understand in hindsight is that in trying every case that came my way, that may not have exactly been consistent with my client's goals, the goal of justice. Were there cases that I won where a tougher than necessary sentence followed, where I'd overcharged the case? That happened. That's not justice. Did juries and judges sometimes have to wade through overcharged cases that I brought and say not guilty on some counts? Yep, that happened too. Now, this, what I'll describe as somewhat immature competitiveness and lack of focus on the client, that continued in some small ways when I moved on to a big law firm. Now, you don't need me to tell you that big law firms are inherently ultra competitive. But instead of being contemplative and reflective and mindful of that supercharged atmosphere, I fully embraced it. Again, eager to try cases and advance in the law firm as a young associate, I sometimes ignored the true settlement value of cases, and I placed too much emphasis on the glory of being victorious in the courtroom. And what seemed a bit lost on me was the concept that a reasonable settlement can show sound judgment and a full appreciation for the client's best interest, even if those interests are not completely consistent with the lawyer's professional goals of notoriety within the law firm and possibly even headlines. And frankly, as a judge, I see that tendency in more than a few lawyers today. Egos, not client goals. And in my quest to advance through this law firm and make partner and bill lots of hours, I'm embarrassed to also report that relationships with my family suffered. Now, I've never been a business lawyer, but I'm sure this type of what I'll call unhealthy focus on winning, on billing, on outmaneuvering your adversary, I'm sure it exists in the business world, business law world. Think about this. Is that last meaningless clause in a 50-page agreement and the hours it will take to negotiate that clause, is that really in the best interest of your client? Or is it more about being competitive? Is it more about besting the lawyer on the other side? As young lawyers about to be thrown into a highly competitive profession, I respectfully suggest that these are the questions you need to take the time to ask yourself from time to time. And these are the questions I regret not asking myself more as a young lawyer. Now, here's the irony of all this, or maybe the lesson. Looking back 30 years, I'm sure of this. Had I been less competitive, had I been more compassionate, especially as a prosecutor, had I billed slightly fewer hours, spent more time with my family, and most importantly, been better focused on my client's goals, as opposed to my own professional goals, I still would have tried a lot of cases, no doubt. I would have billed plenty of hours, I still would have made partner, and probably still would be standing here as United States District Court judge. You already know law school is inherently competitive. You've already had a small taste of this. But I'm here to tell you that the practice of law is far more demanding and far more competitive. Now, to be clear, I am not telling you should not strive to be the best lawyer you can be and work hard. I'm not telling you that. But as you navigate through your career, always remember that your focus must be on the best interest of your client. That is your calling. And that must stay with you always, even if it means a plea and no trial, even if it means a quiet settlement, even if it means an uneventful business negotiation. Keep your eye on that ball and always remember compassion. Because after all, case captions are made up of real people. And if you remember all of this, I promise you, everything else will fall into place. President Harry S. Truman once said, "It's amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who who gets the credit. Now, one last observation, and I'll be brief. I want to talk about Temple Law School's standing in the job market. So, some quick stats. The last 10 years in my court, the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, that court has hired close to 80 Temple Law grads. In the same time frame, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals has hired 21 law clerks, and the total hires of other federal courts under the umbrella of the Third Circuit, Western, Middle District, Eastern District, New Jersey, Delaware, that number's well over 100. Now, there's a reason for these impressive statistics. The reason is the Temple Law School brand in the legal community has never been better. Now, I often tell Dean Epps and Melissa Lennon that my preference to hire Temple clerks, it's out of loyalty. It's mostly true. But the real more honest reason I prefer to hire Temple Law grads is because I have a lot of complicated hard work, and I need smart, hardworking lawyers in the foxhole with me. And as it relates to the Temple brand, I want the type of lawyers that don't take themselves too seriously and who have great judgment. Now, the last time I was privileged to speak to the Temple community, it was at the Eddie Olbaum tribute, and I described Temple lawyers as gritty, as street smart, as always the best prepared lawyers in the room, and I firmly stand by that assessment. And I am here to tell you, class of 2016, that as far as I can tell, and I think I have a pretty good sense of this, I talk to a lot of lawyers, as far as I can tell, that is the reputation you will carry into your jobs and your future. Now, here's the important part. For those of you who are not exactly settled on your future, you don't know what your very next step is going to be, there is great cause to be optimistic. Keep plugging. I promise it will work out, I promise. Because after all, you are a Temple Law School lawyer. I will leave you now with a few traditional and hopefully inspirational quotes. The first is from one of Philadelphia's most famous and respected lawyers, Arlen Adams, advisor to presidents, revered Third Circuit judge. Judge Adams simply said, "The law is a majestic profession. It will bring great happiness to someone who takes it seriously." Now, true story. I have that quote written out in my horrible handwriting in a yellow sticky, and it sits right on my desk. I keep that quote there to remind me every day how lucky I am to be a lawyer, and it inspires me to work harder, but always now with more compassion. Because as Dostoevsky said, compassion is the chief law of human existence. Congratulations, Temple Law School class of 2016. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a small part of this incredible day. It is my continuing honor to be so closely connected to this amazing institution.